Hi, I am so excited to welcome here today to the Story Cure, Laura Burke. Laura, I had the great good fortune of being introduced to Laura through a mutual friend, Amanda Slavin, who go Google her because she's like an epic human. But anyway, she introduced me to
Truly.
Laura. And Laura was writing a book, and she's going to talk a little bit about her book that she's going to be coming out by the end of this year, at the end of 2025. And in addition, an extraordinary entrepreneur in the educational space. So we are going to talk about Laura's journey founding an entrepreneurial academy called the Clara Brown Entrepreneurial Academy for kids to learn, motivated by entrepreneurial skills. I'm so enamored of this. I can't tell you. Like, I'm ready to move to Vail just to be involved in Laura's educational programs with twin 10-year-old boys. And now she's going to be transitioning to Vail, which is an entrepreneurial high school. So we'll talk about all of that, but welcome, Laura. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much, Maymay. I'm just beyond thrilled to be here. I'm super excited. You are totally one of my favorite humans on earth, as is Amanda. And I just am really excited to be here and be part of your Story Cure community and be doing this book and talking entrepreneurial education. It's all just my jam. So, yeah.
I love it. So I would love to start there. Like, what got you interested in educating kids through these entrepreneurial skills?
Yeah, I think for me, it was a lot to do with the fact that I grew up not very interested in school. I was okay enough at it to kind of get by, but I wasn't really engaged, particularly by the time I was in high school. I was like, why is this relevant to me? I don't get why I need this now. It's not because I knew everything. It was because I was just like, I don't understand why this is relevant. Like nothing I learned felt relevant from day to day. And so I went into education 25 years ago as a special ed teacher to teach kids with learning disabilities and ADD and things like kids that learn differently because I was fascinated by how their brains worked and how they had these gifts and these amazing ways of thinking and looking at the world, and that the world wasn't really set up for them. And so I would set up classrooms, like my classroom, to be a place where they felt safe and could take risks and do all of these things that the rest of the school building felt a little bit stifling for them. So I did that for many years and never really wanted to do anything traditional in schools. Like I was always kind of going rogue in schools when I was teaching. And then I really had no intention of being a leader ever, but leaders that I had saw that in me and they were like pushing me to be a leader. So eventually I went and got my principal license and started becoming a school leader. And then the district I was in at the time, Aurora Public Schools, just outside of Denver in Colorado, they were opening magnet schools. And one of the magnet schools that they wanted to open was an entrepreneurial school, K-8, so starting at 5 years old. And as a magnet school, it would be a free public school. So any student in the district could choice into that school. They wouldn't have to pay, which other schools, in Colorado and around the country, for something like that, it's, 30, 40, 50 grand a year for a second grader to go to school, which seems bananas to me. So this was an opportunity to really create an entire school to kind of scale what I had done in classrooms all those years into an entire school. Because the entrepreneurial mindset is really about thinking about things differently. It's about recognizing opportunities, taking risks, learning from failures, all of these things that traditional schools really don't cover, they don't prioritize, they don't value even a lot of them. And so this felt just like too good to be true to start a whole school based on that. And so I ended up getting the job for that and spent a year developing that school. And then we opened in August of 22. And it was amazing. It was the hardest, most amazing thing that, like I say, any of us have ever done. So you'd think it would be something, really just kind of fun and exciting, which it was, but it was also so challenging because you're working against a system that wasn't really created for that, even though the system is what wanted that, if that makes sense. So,
It totally makes sense. I
yeah,
mean, it's always the struggle, right, within a huge bureaucracy. I
yeah.
love that they wanted to start an entrepreneurial school, though. That's so forward thinking of them. So give us a few examples of what were the skills I mean, and like how you taught them, because you mentioned risk taking, that
Yeah, so it
Yeah.
was a lot in how we integrated it into the building. So it wasn't necessarily a fully different curriculum. So the kids all were getting kind of the same curriculum that other kids. They were learning how to read the same way, write the same way, do math. But within that, embedded were different kind of problem and project-based sorts of things. So for instance, fourth graders one year for one of their math units we're learning around about area and diameter. And so rather than just doing worksheets and kind of problems for that, they did a like build your own dream house project. And so the kids had to figure out how to figure out space and area and diameter for furniture in their house and for different things. And then they had to pitch that to different people in the community of like, hey, this would be this house that I would want to build and would you want to buy this house and that kind of thing. So I mean, needless to say, the math scores went through the roof that year because even though that wasn't built into every single unit, kids were excited about math in a way that they hadn't been excited about math, and that hooks them then in other ways. So that was kind of one way that we built it into the curriculum itself. We would do first Friday of the month awards, and rather than just academic awards and reading growth awards and kind of your typical things, we did some of those to recognize, of course, academic growth in a school. But we also had awards for the entrepreneurial mindsets. So, if a student showed that they took a big risk that month and it was really scary for them, maybe not a risk for someone else, but for them it was a risk, they could get up in front of their parents and the whole school and get an award for taking a risk. There were kids that were getting awards for recognizing an opportunity. So we had one little girl, second grader, who she didn't really ask permission. She just started to like sell candy out of her backpack. And so instead of getting her in trouble, I was like, you know what? Yeah, we talked about wanting to do student run shops. I didn't know that you guys would be ready yet, but you know what? Clearly you're ready in second grade. So then we just sort of created an opportunity then for her and for other kids to open up their own student run shops once a month. And so they would come in and they would do these little pop-up shops and they would sell homemade things or repurposed items or their own artwork sometimes. And they could learn how to like run a business and they would learn customer service skills and they would learn inventory and how much it costs to actually make the product versus what you get from selling the product. So those were always really exciting too. Those were always the kids' favorite day of the month.
I think that's fantastic. And is this also what you're teaching at Vail, but a little bit older, or
Yeah,
is it
so
different at an older age?
yeah, both. So yes, and kind of. So
Okay.
when I left Clara Brown, I had opened the school, kind of run it for 2 years as the principal, and then decided, you know what, I think I came to do what I was supposed to do. Like any good entrepreneur, I started a thing and then I exited. And so I didn't know what I was going to do next. I didn't want to go back to a traditional school. Like there's no way I could go back to a traditional school at that point, and was waiting kind of for the right thing to kind of sing to my heart, I say. And so this opportunity came at Vail, which is the Venture Academy of Leadership and Entrepreneurship. So VALE, Vail for short. And it's in Parker, Colorado, so just south of Denver. And that school was actually being created at the same time that Clara Brown was being created. So Leanne Hayen is the principal, and she and I got introduced through mutual connections. When we were both kind of creating these schools, sort of serendipitously, a K-8 and a 9-12 in Colorado for the first time, at the public school level, especially. And so she and I met back then. We hit it off, all these things. Fast forward a few years, her founding assistant principal was leaving. And so there was this job opening. And I was like, oh my God, yes, this is where I belong. And so I went through the full interview process, which I have to say is the most intense interview process I think I've ever had in my entire life. And it was brilliant and beautiful. And I keep telling her we have to like share it with the world because it's the most amazing process ever, with just the intentionality behind it. So anyway, after that process, I came into that role, and Vale does everything differently in the most beautiful way. And so she is the chief learner and disruptor. That's how we refer to her rather than like principal all the time. And I am the chief of innovative systems and empowerment. And our teachers are learning facilitators. Our counselor is the chief of inclusion and belonging. And so, and it's not just the titles, it's how we do the work, right? So at Vail, again, it's a free public school open to anybody. Kids come from all over and they apply to come as a choice school, but it's very small by design. So just 40 kids per grade level, 9 through 12. So like there's 40 ninth graders, 40 10th graders. And that's full. Like there's still, because it's so new still, there's still even some room, in the grade levels. But um, the kids come in and their whole day is around these entrepreneurial mindsets, with it being kind of a combination of the head and the heart, and that those two things work together to be a successful human. And I think it's important to say too that these schools are not just trying to churn out little CEOs, right? That's not really the goal. The goal is to instill these entrepreneurial mindsets in kids, where if they really believe that like they can do anything and they can have kind of the resilience and the passion to follow their purpose, and they can have this mindset, they can take that wherever they want to in life. So many of the students at Vail, well, all of them do internships. So every single student ends up doing an internship by the time they're in 12th grade.
Ah,
They've done
how
multiple
amazingly
internships.
practical is that?
Mhm.
Gosh.
Yep. All industry
Yeah.
partners. We have dozens and dozens of industry partners and always looking for more because kids are interested in different things. And so we always say too that it would be so great for them. Imagine going to an internship when you're 15, thinking you know exactly what you want to do. But then you do that for 6 months and you're like, gosh, this is not at all what I want to do. You've now figured that out when you were 15 and you figured it out for free. So now at 16, you can find something else that you want to do. And you're now wasting kind of time later, time and money and everything else to figure those things out. So yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, kids, many of our kids have their own businesses, their own nonprofits. Like it's like the coolest thing I've ever seen. It's amazing. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yet
Yeah.
again, I'm ready to relocate.
Yeah.
So yeah, sign me up for that. That
Well,
sounds
you're
so
welcome
awesome.
anytime.
Um, are you using AI? Because I know that there's like a top private school here locally in Hawaii where they are starting to move towards the idea of teachers as learning facilitators because they feel like with AI, you can kind of customize education to each child. Is that
Yeah,
part of your program?
that's a great question, and of course, super timely and coming up all the time.
Yeah.
And so, really, at Vail, the district, so we're part of Douglas County School District. The district does encourage kind of responsible use of AI, particularly for teachers. Like use it to, better your life, to make it more efficient. I mean, I coached a teacher the other day who was struggling with how to differentiate through a pre and post assessment for kids so that he knew kind of exactly what the kids needed to know. And rather than spend hours poring over everything, I said, why don't you plug in what you need them to know, plug it into AI, tell it what you want, and then it'll come up with some ideas for you and you can go from there. It may not be something that you want to do exactly. That's where critical thinking comes into play. But he said, yeah, I tried that and it worked. It gave me a guiding way to kind of get started on that. And I didn't feel so lost on how to get started. And so, yeah, I think as a district and as a school in particular, we do want teachers to be able to access AI to really be effective for them. And that being said, I think there's a space as well to teach kids AI literacy and kids like, how do we use this? I think about many years ago, when the internet was starting, people lost their
Yeah.
minds. They thought kids are going to just steal everything from this internet thing and they're never going to think for themselves again. And I think, God, could you imagine if we had kept the internet from an entire generation of kids? Like, what would that have done? Right. So
Right.
I don't think it's about keeping it from them. I think it's about the adults getting literate at it so that they know how to really leverage it and use it well, and then how to really support and guide our kids going through that to be able to really use it in a way that is important because I think there's such a humanizing aspect to teaching as well. I mean, to everything, of course, but particularly in education. I mean, the biggest thing, that Vail does as part of the entrepreneurial mindset is the heart. and the
Mm.
relationships with kids, with each other. We do the Dare to Lead program here through Brene Brown. So we talk about the vulnerability and shame and courageous conversations and all of these different things that are very human centered. And so AI can't replace that. They can't replace the relationship that teachers have with kids. But it can certainly, level up everybody in a way that you're spending your own human brain power on things that really matter and not on the noise and the busyness of education.
That is so awesome. I mean, I hope that that really catches on and becomes a model for the rest of the country, if not the world, in terms of education. So that segues very nicely into your book because this is one of the messages of your book. So
Yes.
tell us about your book and what it's about, what the story is there.
Yes, so I'm very excited. When I left Clara Brown, I didn't know
Yeah,
what I was going to do next. And
yeah.
people had told me since the very beginning, like, you have to write a book about this school because people aren't doing education like this, and particularly for younger kids and in a public school system, especially. I mean, talk about equal access for so many kids, right? So people had said that, and I thought, well, I don't know what time I'm going to do that in when I'm running a school and I have a family and all of that. So when I left, it was the perfect time to really start that book. And so I partnered up with you for your best-selling book cohort. And as part of that cohort, then I really started to discover, like, what did I want it to be about? What are the themes that I wanted? And it really was about creating this school that is a different experience for kids in a traditional school system. And so it kind of walks readers through the very beginning of just like me getting the job and what it looked like, and me alone in a room trying to figure out what to do, to the different sort of issues that I had navigating the district system and with nobody there to really help me, not because they were not wanting to help me, but no one had experienced it before. No one knew what we were doing. And so it was very much a risk and a new thing for everybody. And so oftentimes when people are afraid, they just go to no right away. They say no, 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 no. So it was really navigating a lot of that and figuring out, like, which hills am I going to die on and all of that. But then then pulling together this dream team of people to help me do that, whether they were educators that I hired on as part of the development team or entrepreneurs that I met that, like Amanda, that wanted to be kind of part of this. And little by little, we created this amazing little space in the world, with staff that were really all in on this idea of doing something different for kids. And then having to sort of sell something that didn't exist yet. The school didn't exist, but I had to enroll 200 kids. And so that was a whole other level of fun. I was like, and then, construction, we were repurposing a building. And so I didn't know I was like an interior designer in construction like, it was just so many things were not in the brochure, baby. I just like so many things. And so really the book is just about kind of how it began, the different kind of things, the ways we navigated the traditional system, ways that we embedded this sort of entrepreneurial mindset. There's lots of lessons learned along the way. So every chapter is kind of a lessons learned at the end, because what I really wanted to do was help other people that wanted to do something similar but didn't really know where to start, or maybe had started but needed to pivot or something. Like, this is the book I needed when I was opening the school. And so, that's really why I wanted to write it. And that's really what it takes readers through, is sort of the whole journey. And then this idea that sort of it's almost like a teaser, like the next chapter is now Vale. And this is the high school that is not at all related to Clara Brown, although we did partner with them. The high schoolers go to the elementary and do the work with them and stuff. But how two totally different entities, are starting. So it sort of ends with me getting this position. And then we'll see what, maybe volume two looks like. But that's really the message of the book is, if you're someone that wants to do something, whether it's just in your classroom or school wide, there's so many people doing such amazing things in education, and we don't have to do them in a vacuum all by ourselves. Like, there's ways that we can learn from each other. And so I'm really hopeful that this book will help people learn from both what I got totally wildly wrong and what I did, pretty well. So so it's
Totally. What Like, give us one of your a story of one of your biggest challenges that you faced.
Oh gosh, lots of different challenges. I think one of them I think was around just helping people understand what entrepreneurial education was. It's not it's more of a conceptual challenge than a tangible challenge, I think, but it became a very concrete challenge when we were like, how do we embed this in the school? But I think, when I started to say that I was opening this entrepreneurial school, everyone said like, "Oh yeah, I had a lemonade stand when I was a kid, but like, how do you do that in like the
Right,
whole school?" And I'm like,
right.
"Oh, I'm glad you asked," right? So it was a lot
Yeah.
of learning about what does entrepreneurial education even mean, and really digging into that. That was a huge challenge to not only understand it fully myself, but then be able to explain it to other people, to potential parents and students that wanted to come to the school. So I had the good fortune of being connected with Sarah Earnholm, who runs a teen entrepreneur program called Doing Whatever It Takes, Doing WIT. And she runs this program both, I believe, in person and virtually. And she was kind of the first person very early on that I talked to that explained that entrepreneurial education or being an entrepreneur is not about running a business. It's about the mindset that it takes. Do you have passion for something? Is there a problem that you want to solve? How do you collaborate with others to do that? How are you willing to take risks to see this problem through to a solution? It's those skills that we really want to instill. It's not, this is a business plan, this is how you run a business, this is your inventory, your profit. Like, that's not about that. It's about the mindset. And that really helped me to then explain it to other people to say, look, entrepreneurial education is not just running a business. It's really about starting anything and being part of something that you are passionate about. Um, so I think that was a huge challenge that I had just right out of the gate is what is entrepreneurial education even? And you can do it as a whole school. Certainly, we've proven that to be true and be wildly successful. I mean, test scores and by every measure, both schools are very successful. But also you can do it just within your own classroom and within your own sort of units. You can instill those values in kids and those mindsets in kids by giving them those little challenges and asking them those really good questions and getting them to think and not just consume.
Is such a fabulous lesson that you can take this. One of the things I loved when we first started talking was that you'd built this within the public school system and that it was accessible. Because, like you said, I think there are programs like this that exist that are 30 to 50K a year. And
Yeah.
uh, and I love that you made this accessible. And I also love what you're saying about like even as a teacher in a school that isn't about this, you could incorporate some of the mindset into your classroom. So I hope that people will buy and read your book. Can you tell us a success story? Is there a story of either a teacher, an administrator, or a student whose life was impacted?
Oh my gosh. I mean, we have lots of success stories. I'm excited to be able to say that. I think, you know, one of the success stories I think about, and I have to say about a kid because that's my biggest excitement is when the kids are successful in something. One of our kids, she was one of the very first students to do a pop-up shop, and she did bracelets, like beaded bracelets with, like the wire hook kind of through it. And she made all the bracelets herself and she started selling them. And then about, I don't know, 30 minutes later, one of her customers, which was one of her classmates, uh, came back to her and said, "My bracelet broke, it fell apart." And she was like, "Oh my God, like I'm so sorry." And she really had to use her mindset and think about, well, do I just say, "Well, too bad, you already bought it"? Do I, like how do I handle this, right? This real issue. And it wasn't someone that was a friend of hers. They just, were in her class and I don't even know actually if they were in her class, but they were in the school. They might have been older or younger than her, but in any case, she really had to figure out what to do. And so she decided that she was going to refund the money to that person because their bracelet broke so quickly, and she wasn't trying to blame the customer. And so then about 3 months later, she applied to do another shop. And this time she had improved the way that she created the bracelets and the clasps that she used and the knots that she used. And so she was the one that said, like, hey, I improved these. These aren't breaking. We've tested them out now. Like, they're going to be great, but come back and let me know if it breaks, I'll refund your money. But she didn't have any of them break after that. And I think, like, what an amazing real world lesson for her. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, on so many levels. I love that. That's just beautiful. I mean, teaching you about testing, customer service, process
All the
improvement,
things.
failure, like all the things
Yep.
in real life.
Yeah.
That is a fantastic story. Um, so tell us about like kind of your vision for the future and, just a small question,
I know, right?
but
Just kind of basic.
specifically in terms of educating our nation's children. Like, what do you see coming ahead as somebody who stands on the forefront?
I think just alternative options to traditional education, whatever that might be. So I happen to be in the entrepreneurial education space, but it might be something else for somebody else. I think we have to recognize that kids need something different. We as adults need things different. So why wouldn't we create different options for kids? So I see a lot of personalized learning options coming down, especially with AI. I see kids and families and parents and teachers hungry to do something that is different than the experience that they had in school traditionally. We spend a lot of time kind of unlearning what we've learned in traditional schools. And so that's what I hope for the future of education is to really be able to have kids have these options that allow them to be whatever is successful to them in their lives and impact.
I think it's wonderful. When you were talking about some of the values that you were teaching and the mindset, and it not being about the mindset rather than being a CEO and P&L statements and
Mhm.
business plans, was how I think, unfortunately, our school system that exists, it actually teaches the opposite. It teaches you not to take risks,
Right.
to memorize, to, fill in the blank, get good grades and kind of check the box, go with the flow. And it's just that is not what it's going to take, even more so in the world that is coming where, thousands of people are getting laid off because of AI. And I think just more than ever, these skills that you're talking about, risk taking and creativity and finding opportunities, but also collaboration. So I wanted to ask you to circle back on that because you mentioned a couple of times
Mhm.
collaboration or this idea of heart-centered leadership. So I think that's going to be so important moving forward as
Absolutely.
well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the robot, as we call it in our house,
Yeah.
can do more and more. Like, where are our human skills going to let us shine and rise above? So
Yeah.
how do you teach? I think that's so amazing. And it's so amazing, and especially in the pre, college setting, because, well, I don't know about you, even when I went to university, even when I went to college, there was very little collaborative learning. Like, as you saw that
Yeah.
happen at business schools, but that was like by the time people are in their 20s.
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's something that is wildly overlooked as one of the most necessary skills because there's very few professions that you don't have to collaborate with anybody ever. I mean, even as a
like,
writer,
are there any?
right? No, probably
Yeah.
really not,
I mean,
right? I mean,
yeah.
you write a book on your own, so to speak, but you're not really doing it on your own. You're interviewing people, you're talking with people, you're figuring out editing and publishing. Like there's so many people that go into that that even just writing a book seems like a solitary thing to do, but it's not. Actually, you have to really be able to collaborate with a lot of people. And so I think, one of the things that I really appreciate about both Clara Brown and at Vail is this insistence on collaboration, that you will learn how to collaborate. And if you don't already know, if that's not your jam, if you like to work on your own, we're going to baby step you into that. We're not going to just like throw you in with the, loudest kids and overbearing and, all of that. We're going to baby step you into that, but we are going to push you into that because you simply have to know how to collaborate with people, how to give what your strengths are, how to fill in, your weaknesses with other people's strengths, how to have a voice, how to listen, how to pivot maybe your own thought about something because you're hearing from someone else a different perspective. Like there's just so many good things about collaboration that it goes beyond just the group project where one person does all the work and three people just kind of sit and let them do that. Like that's not what that is anymore. It's, everyone has an assigned role and you have a certain thing that you bring and you've done the work ahead of time to talk about like where are our strengths in this group. That's where teachers planning intentionally for the groups can come into play also is this kid is really strong at writing. This kid is really strong at bringing all the voices together. This kid is strong at presenting. Like, where can we bring these kids together? And that's why some of the work done at both schools is really centered around the kids knowing each other very, very well, themselves very well, and the teachers knowing the kids very well to be able to have some of those intentional groupings.
It's again so valuable for in the world that we live in and going forward. Awesome. So tell me just a little bit. We're going to shift
Yes.
here in the final minutes. I would love to hear about your experience in the story cure, if you'd be willing to
Of
share. Our
course.
little nascent online community of storytellers, which Laura, we've been so delighted to have Laura be a part of this community.
Well, listen, I've been delighted to be part of it. I have to tell you, it is one of the best things I've ever done. And I feel like I've done some pretty cool things. But like this has been so amazing because I don't do a lot of social media. Like I'm on LinkedIn. I've always done LinkedIn, but I don't have a Facebook, Instagram. Like I don't do any of it because like I just no my God, time for that, right? Like it's drama, it's comparison, it's time sucking. Like it's just never been my jam. And so when the story cure got brought up as like, hey, you've been in this cohort of authors and you're all writing your books and like that's, time bound. It's, you have this for so many weeks and then it's kind of up to you to keep in touch with people. That's great. And that has happened in some instances with several folks, but to be able to have an online space where it's I mean, for lack of a better word, it's kind of fully vetted, right? Like there's no trolls on there. There's no one I'm gonna worry about if I say something, there's gonna be this like troll somewhere out there just bashing what I say. So it's a safe place. It's brilliant people who are from all walks of life, all around the world, that are coming together to share, their different stories, no matter how short. I mean, sometimes the daily questions that are posed have actually made me think so much so after I've answered that question, it could be about something from my childhood or my favorite such and such or whatever. There's all different things. Then I'll go out the rest of my day and I'll think about that. And that might prompt me to have a question like that question with someone, right? So now I've had a conversation with someone because of a question that was in the story cure. And it's happened with my kids where I've gotten like dinner table conversation going with my kids around one of the questions that I found in the story cure. It's helped me know myself a little bit more. It's helped me um, understand all the other people in the community more and just, kind of get a vibe with people that I would have never known otherwise. And it's the safe place to do that. And it's always positive and fun. It's not like toxic positivity, but it's never, I'm not going on there the way I would go on social media and see some story that makes me just go, oh my gosh, right? Like it's relatable stories. It's people putting their best selves out there, their worst selves out there, their most vulnerable selves out there. Like it's just this like community that I really have come to value and look forward to kind of going into the app and seeing like what's the question today and who's answered it and how can I contribute to it and how can I learn or relate to somebody else. And that's just the question. I mean, there's events and there's all these different ways to take advantage of the different pieces that you want to in there. And it's not like a time suck the way that social media can feel like a time suck. This feels like it's filling my bucket, not taking from it. So I've really appreciated the community and I just love it and encourage anybody to be part of it. Whether you see yourselves as an author or not, like we're all the authors of our lives, we're all storytellers in our own ways. And so I would just love to see that community grow so that we can know and support and be around more people.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. We love having you again. It's so delightful. And thank you for sharing your experience. I really appreciate that purely self-promotional angle of this. chat.
Listen.
So I would love for you to tell everybody where to find you. And also we didn't, what's the title of your book? I mean, I know it's not
Oh,
out yet, but say it now because this will live on YouTube long beyond when it's published.
well, I would like to say I have like a fully fleshed out title. I think maybe I do, but I don't know. It might
Okay.
change, but it's right now I have Entrepreneur Elementary, Building a School on 7 Key Skill Sets to Empower Kids. And it's really like the story of creating this new school and how you can do the same. So I'm like,
Awesome.
I might tweak the title a little bit,
Might
but
tweak it a little bit. And Laura Burke, Burke,
yes.
with an
Yep.
E at the
So
end, and where
yep.
you can find you on LinkedIn, you told
I'm on
us.
LinkedIn. It's Laura M.
Okay.
Burke. And
Okay.
then lauraMburke.com is my website, which just kind of
Oh,
has more
great.
information about me. I've got a podcast that like 7 people listen to, which is fine. Like it's just me and my friends
That's
doing
great.
a
That's
podcast
where we're
together.
at
So
right too. That's where we're at too,
yeah.
basically. But although we do, like I said, we do chop up and use the shorts, so I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
What about Vail? Again, if people want to look into Clara Brown Entrepreneurial Academy,
Yes.
that seems
So
pretty obvious to find.
it is. It's pretty easy to find that one. That and they take applications, for each year, for the coming year.
Okay.
And I know that they have spots open for 6th grade because they've just gone to 6th grade this coming school year for 25.
Ooh,
They
oh,
have spots
fabulous.
available. And that's through the Aurora Public School System in Colorado. So just
Okay.
find it that
Okay.
way. Vail is the Venture Academy of Leadership and Entrepreneurship. And
Okay.
that is through Douglas County Schools. So even just Googling either one of those, you can
Okay.
find that. And Vail's got spots open too. So we're almost full in 9th grade, depending on the math you need because of the way we do the classes. So, but we've got some wait lists going, and even anyone that wants to
Wow.
be a student at the school, or even entrepreneurs or people in the community that want to partner
Right.
in some way.
Right.
We've got spots for, be a guest judge for a pitch competition or do an internship with a kid, have them intern for you, or, lots of different options and ways to get involved. So I would love to be able to
I love
meet some
it.
people.
Oh, I need to have a conversation with you about Hope Foundation. Oh my
Awesome.
God, totally. We're trying to roll out the high school program in the US, and it's hugely popular all over the UK. So it started in Ireland, but it's also in
Awesome.
England now. And they have high schoolers who raise money. There's raised $2,500 and then go do a week of service in India. But the entrepreneurial angle is that we're looking for students who want to lead the program at their
Amazing.
school.
Oh, yeah.
So they would be the ones to learn about it, present it, recruit people, help people figure out their fundraising goals,
That would be
and
incredible.
then lead a trip.
Yeah. Vail would be all about that. All
Okay,
about it.
we're going to
Yeah.
talk separately about
Amazing.
that offline.
Amazing.
Thank you, Laura, so much for your time today. Laura Burke, everybody go look her up on LinkedIn. And if you're lucky enough to live somewhere in the general broader Denver area, send your kids to entrepreneurial school. Man, I
Yeah.
absolutely would. No question about it. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for being
Awesome.
part of the Story Cure community. We'll look for your book and we'll promote it like crazy.
Awesome. You're the best, May. I appreciate you and your whole
Thanks,
community. Thank you so
Laura.
much.
Thank you. All right. Take care.